Welcome everyone to this DITA World session titled Better Mileage from AEM's XML Editor. My name's Bernard. I'm going to show you how to get the maximum that you can out of Adobe's web-based DITA XML Editor in the time I've got allocated. This is based on Editor 4, so it's the newest one available. This is what you saw in the outline. So hopefully you're using the XML Editor, and I want to show you a few ways that you can do things right. Tips and tricks. I want to speed up the way that you work with the tool. So I'll show you some tips and tricks. I'll work with content creation, a little bit of migration of material from Word, from Excel, some publishing, and behind the scenes ways that you can make the editor do what you want. Time frames tight. I want to show you how to work with content creation workflows, templates, talk about snippets, reusable content, give you a ton of tips. Work with the code view, the author view, quickly develop content, and plan some simple demonstrations so that you can just showcase a little bit of how you do things. I don't think there's enough time. We're going to see what happens. Really quickly, my name, mentioned before, Bernard Aschwanden, QR code. If you have your phone and you grab it, and this will show up again later on, but you scan that QR code, it will link to my LinkedIn profile, and you'll be able to connect with me. I'm the president of a company called Publishing Smarter. My email address is bernard@publishingsmarter.com. There is a lot of content. Again, I don't know if we can cover all of it, so we have all kinds of supplementary things to help you along the way. But remember, this is recorded. You can come back to it later, and I will have several really useful links at the end of this that you'll be able to go to learn much more. That's about as much as you want to hear from me. I'm going to dive into the good stuff. This is tips and tricks. It is a rapid fire edition, so let's get to it. A couple of quick tips for setup. Things you should do early on. Odds are the repository view that you see here is pretty familiar. In the editor, on the left near the top, there's double chevrons. You can click them to expand the sidebar. Each of the options, favorites, repository view, map view, and so on, has a lot of information available for it. The good news is there's an entire set of videos that are available on Experience League, and again, the link to that will be at the very end. You can quickly tweak the interface by changing the user preferences. I'll start by showing you what happens when you change the theme. This is the dark theme. There's also one that's even darker and one that's very, very light. I also like to set the base path. Sometimes you're looking at the repository view and you see this huge collection of folders. This lets you focus in on a specific location. We have worked really hard over the years to help people who are learning XML documentation, and we have a dedicated folder here that contains a lot of files associated with that training. By the way, for the video, I'm going to change the theme back from dark to light. Two quick changes here, the theme and the base path. If you're interested in knowing more about folder profiles and the root map, you can actually watch a bunch of the videos on Experience League to learn more. Next quick tip. If you hover over a file, you can actually see its full name and title. A lot of people don't know that if you hover over the icon, you'll get a pop-up that tells you if it's a concept, task, a map, a folder, and so on. Most people do know that if you click the plus sign, you can create a DITA file. Not everybody knows how much you can customize what happens when you click on DITA topic. This probably looks really familiar. You choose a template from the drop-down, and then you put in a title and you move ahead. A quick review of the drop-down probably shows you a lot of familiar options. Let's go play with this. I'll show you how to build a better drop-down. On that left-hand sidebar is templates. I've built out a topic for a test concept. The short description, the sample paragraph, both of those have a quick single phrase that somebody could double-click and replace. I want to make it as easy as possible for an author to use this. I also have a table that's pre-configured with information about each of my 4 quarters, projected sales, and related notes. This makes a good template. Just before I close the template, notice that when I hover over the tab, you can see the full path and even the version number of the file. If I right-click inside the tab, I actually get a bunch of pop-up contextual options. Here I'm going to use the repository in order to show where it is in the repository, but it's really helpful if you happen to be working with a map that's really complex and you've got a lot of files open and you want to find out exactly where it is in the map. So quick tip. We're already at 5 minutes. I'm going to go to the repository view for the next piece. Just remember, I took the templates, I showed you one of the templates that had some custom content in it, but earlier in the repository when we created a new DITA topic, that template was not available. Let's go explore how to enable that template. Let's explore something called a folder profile. There's a much more detailed video on folder profiles on the Adobe Experience League site. Again, the link will follow. But basically, you work with the XML documentation on the left, and then the folder profile, in my example, is located in the top right. You could actually have a unique folder profile for all kinds of different users or locations, but I'm going to change the global profile because I want to reconfigure how templates work for everyone. I'm changing the global profile, and I've gone to the Authoring Template tab. Don't do this lightly. This is global. It will impact all users, but it's really cool. By clicking Edit, I can now go in and configure the authoring template that's available. From the drop-down, I can scroll and find Test Concept. I could also search or type in information if I had a lot of templates to quickly jump to them. You can still see all the topic templates, glossary, reference, and so on. Test Concept's not there yet. I've just selected it from the list. Clicking the Add button places it at the end of the list. Most people won't complain if somebody adds 1 or 2 templates. What I'm going to do now is take the 4 selected templates and remove them. It's that easy. I select them, I click the Delete button at the top. I now have 5 topic templates, including my new test concept, that are going to appear when anyone, because it's the global profile, when anyone tries to create a new topic. In the top left, I click Save. Let's go see the impact. Back in the repository, +, DITA topic, the same way you generally create any new DITA topic. This is where it gets interesting. I now see that restricted list of the 5 choices. One of them is the test concept, so I select it. Then I finish populating the dialog and click Create. Let's see what we get. We get a pre-populated file that's created successfully. The title is reflecting the file name, but the short desk is reading Department and Quick Overview or Intro. This is where the double click's handy. I can have my user double click. They know that this will be the Department and Quick Overview or Intro, and they can type in the appropriate information. Not bad. 8 minutes into the session, and oops, I created an actual file that I don't need. I don't know how many times anyone else has done this, but I'll show you the quick way to remove it so that it doesn't sit in the repository. In the repository, I access my Quick menu, and inside it, I can choose View in Assets UI. I get a bit of a preview of the file. Looks good, actually, but I get a preview of the document, which I can close. The file named Let's See What We Get Now is at the top of the list, so I will select it. If required, on the left, you could select additional icons to add more files to the selection. Across the top, I don't have the option to delete the file, but near the end, on the right, I have an ellipses, 3 dots, that I can click. In this drop-down, I select Delete. That's a permanent action, so I just want to confirm, yes, I've selected the file that I want to delete, and then I click the red Delete button. I'm using full screen mode, but watch what happens when I return to the tab where I had worked with a file. The repository view still shows me the file called Let's See What We Get Now. In the document window, I still have the tab open. This is just a browser legacy, so I'll refresh the window. It's a pre-recorded video. I could have just cheated and jumped right to this slide, but I want you to see some of the little things along the way that sometimes throw you when you're doing some development or building. We're closing in on 10 minutes. When I'm migrating content, there's often the possibility that some of the information that's in one of the topics actually needs to be in another topic. Let's address that. I know that during conversion, the map for adding visual impact to content contained a couple of topics where I want to move information from one to the other. I'm going to open documents with visual content and working with tables. I also noticed that somebody checked out working with images. There's an icon with a lock. This is just a sample, but I have two documents open, one documents with visual content, one working with tables. Rather than toggling back and forth between the tabs, I'm going to right click and then I'm going to choose to split, and working with tables I'm going to split to the left. The document working with tables is on the left, documents with visual content is on the right, and I see a paragraph near the bottom of working with tables that I want to move. I can click and select the element. Once it's highlighted, I'll click and drag it straight across to where the con body ends in the documents with visual content topic. Pretty nice, right? I converted content. I ended up with two topics, realized that I had to move information from one to the other, but instead of cutting from one, pasting into the other, I can actually drag and drop. Another really quick tip. If you have multiple tabs open, you can right-click in them and do things like close and then choose to close all, or you could keep just the one tab open, close others, or of course you could just close the current tab. I'm going to close all. And this is just a demo video. So you can see that when I close all, I'm prompted for unsaved changes and what to do. I'm just going to close without saving. I also realized that during the transformation of legacy content to my DITA environment, there's some content that was missing here, table-related information specifically. So I'm going to insert a table, and I'll see a couple of different results. This is the Insert Simple Table dialog. It doesn't have anything for a more involved actual T group, but sure, simple table. I want to show you a couple things around tables, so I'm just going to switch to the source mode for a moment so that you can see what's happening behind the scenes for a simple table. It's in the top right. I don't always recommend working with source mode, but there are a couple of very specific times where either you want to see the structure or you need to manipulate some of the information. Be really careful with it. The source mode makes it really clear this is a simple table with simple table rows and simple table entries. Back up on the top, on the right, I'm going to switch to author. The developers of the editor are pretty bright. Simple table doesn't allow you to merge cells. So if you highlight two cells and you try to merge, watch what happens. From the context menu, I choose merge cells. No complaints. It merged the cells, which a simple table doesn't allow. Let's take a look at the source and see what actually happened. The table correctly converted into a T group. It has call spec information with a column width and a column name, table body, row, entry with name start, name end, with the more rows for the merge. The behind the scenes shows us what actually happened. Let's go back to the author view. It turns out this is just a browser refresh. By going to the source view and back to the author, it's actually updated. But what if you want to start off with a table and a T group? I'll select the table and get rid of it. This roughly returns us to where we were. I'm back inside working with tables, I'm in that con body, and I realize there was something that during conversion may have been missed and I need to insert a table. Not a simple table, a table. This is the same dialog, but this time I'm going to type in a title, even though I don't need it. It's a gibberish title. Then I click Insert. Simple table doesn't support the title, therefore the developers ensured that a table with the title in the T group is automatically inserted. I have my tags view on, so it's really easy for me to select the entire title. I press delete and I'm left with the table. The same table that I will promptly select, and then delete. We're 14 minutes in. If you use Excel, this is the time where you should perk up and listen. And if you're watching the video later, jot down a note now that says jump ahead to 14 minutes. I have several very simple examples. I'm going to highlight from A1 to B4, and I'm going to copy and paste this and see what happens. Notice that the AEM portion is in bold and the base path is italics. Let's fix that fictitious transformation issue from old content to new and paste in the table that was missing that came from an Excel file. It's a simple table. We can fix that up afterwards, but the content's here. We lost the bold on AEM, we lost the italic on base path, but it's a starting point. I want to try a few other things, so I'll click Simple Table and delete it. Let's see what happens with some other Excel source content. This one actually used the Excel feature to format as a table. Let's see what happens if we copy and paste. Nothing particularly exciting. It's just another simple table. It's lost all the format. Hope nobody's too attached. I'm going to select it and delete it. My favorite table is gone. Lament the masses. Yeah, over to Excel. Here, the format's not just bold. We also have things like the alignment that have changed. We have the $sign. We have the decimal points. There's actually some calculations in it. Let's copy and paste. At this point, I'm just curious how many people think that it's going to paste with or without the formatting of the $sign, the decimals, and so on, as well as the bold and the alignment. Anyway, let's see what happens. That's not bad. It brought across the information. It's still in the simple table. It didn't retain the alignment or the bold, but it actually maintained the calculated values, the $signs, the decimal points. In the last for the profit, the decimals had simply been removed as part of the formatting inside the Excel spreadsheet. Not bad. This time I'll show a little trickery. I'm going to take the information, the bold, the italic, the centered materials. I'm going to take this and do a copy. But instead of directly pasting to AEM, I'm actually going to paste it into a Word document first. I kind of expected the format to be retained when I brought it over here, and it is. It's a Microsoft to Microsoft transformation. Feels a little weird. I select the table in Word that started in Excel. I select and I copy it. You know where this is going. Place your bets. Will it format? Will it be a simple table? Will it be a table? If your bet was simple table, but it would retain the bold and the italic, you're a winner. Great. I'm guessing you think I'm going to select and delete it, and sure enough, I select it. I don't delete it though. I'm right-clicking in the simple table element name. And then take a look at the options. One of them is rename element. I'll start typing table in the rename element dialog. And when I see table, I will double-click. This is a correct transformation of the simple table into the table element with the T group, and it still retains the paragraphs with the bold, the paragraph with the italic. I'm also going to take the chart that's inside Excel and copy that into my AEM environment and see what happens. Apples to apples, I'm putting it into the Working with Tables document inside the first piece of the con body. This is cool. Paste recognizes that this is actually a graphical representation and allows me to upload the assets into the repository. Let's give it a name. I'll change the default. The new name makes more sense, but I also want to put it in a specific folder within my assets. I had set my user preferences to navigate to a specific location within the repository. That location has an images folder, so I select it. Everything looks good, so I'll click Upload. The Excel chart is converted to an image, uploaded into the repository, and it's correctly inserted. Not bad. Since we're already on the topic of images, let's manipulate this chart and resize it. This version of the editor allows me to hover over the corners of an image and click to drag and drop as a way to resize it. It's a really easy way to manipulate the properties of the image. Take a look on the right of the screen. There's an icon that expands a panel showing content properties. The selected content is the image, and the content properties shows that as the type. It also shows the source of it, the width and the height locked as an aspect ratio, that it's inline, and that it has an ID of image 1. I'm going to drag and drop and resize it once more. The width and height automatically update. Clicking in the concept changes the content properties. I've no longer selected the image, so I see the type is concept, and the other attributes display the attribute ID and its value. The second icon on the right displays the file properties. The third icon allows you to launch a review workflow. And the last icon manages tracked changes. The good news on each of these is that, again, they're further explored in the Adobe Experience League videos that I'll link you to at the end of this session. 20 minutes. We made it almost halfway without me going over to Microsoft Word, but I'm going to Microsoft Word. Sorry, not sorry, has to be done. I'm going to bring in some information a little quicker just to show you what happens, but it's going into the same place inside the same document. This is my Word document in the draft view. On the left, you can actually see the styles of title and heading 1 and list paragraph, as well as normal. These have been applied using best practices. I'm returning to the print layout, but not everyone uses best practices. A lot of the work that we do when it comes to file conversion and file transformation is to help people get their source content cleaned up. And in many cases, the Word document is one of the biggest challenges to convert into DITA. Let's perform a quick scan of what's here. I see the end of a numbered list, a 1, 2, 3. There's a bullet list, it's got 2 items in it, and there's a few tables. First table, pretty straightforward. It has a word in strong. There's a second table, and it actually has a merged set of cells as well as a bullet list. Let's see what we get. Going back to the beginning, and then I'll select everything to copy. Incidentally, there is a special ingestion tool that allows Word documents to be dragged and dropped into AEM and transformed based on effective use of a title, heading 1, heading 2, and so on. So if your documents are in good shape, there is a relatively quick way to bulk convert them in order to load them into the system. Back to the editor and the straightforward paste. The content's inserted, it's in paragraphs, doesn't pick up the heading 1 and the heading 2 necessarily, but it's not bad. I can see an ordered list down near the bottom. These are not bad. There's the numbered list, 2 and 3. The ordered list ends, a paragraph starts the unordered list with the 2 list items. Then I have the table, and that first simple table seems to be working okay. In the very last cell on the left, it actually even picked up the strong word. Now that was set up using an actual proper Word style. This was the table that was a little more fancy. It actually manages to bring across the unordered list with the 2 list items as bullet first and bullet second, and the ordered list with a single list item next to it also shows up. Additionally, that content is inside a table where the cells have spanned. Lastly, it's actually in a table. It's not in a simple table. So the recognition of the word simple table and the word table information correctly transformed itself on ingestion through the paste. Here we continue with what was originally inside the document. Just to give us a slightly different view, I'm going to turn off the tags view and go to the beginning of this document. It's not bad. That was a Word document, and it came across and maintained a lot of the original information. It still needs cleanup, potentially reorganizing material into a section, but again, you didn't have to rewrite it. You just have to work on further structuring it. Your mileage may vary depending on the quality of the source Word document. Let's go a little further into the source view. There's a few reasons you might want to use the source view. Let's say you're working with conditions. Platform is already configured so that Linux, Mac, and Windows has a specific value and a color assigned to it, and you can drag and drop to add them in. But list item number 2, 3, and 5 have some sort of a highlight, and I'm not sure why. I'm just toggling back to the repository view for a consistent feel, but let's go explore these. As I click on each list item, the content properties shows me the attribute of audience and the value, in this case, author. List item 3, when it's selected, shows in the content properties that the attribute for audience has a value of dev. There are times I want to see multiple values showing at the same time, or I want to be able to manipulate them. The source sometimes is a useful way to do this. I can now see lines 11, 12, and 14 really clearly identify that the audience is author, dev, and then author. Now I can double-click the attribute value and I can retype it, for example, with a capital A. Broadly, this tip provides you a reason to go into the source code and carefully make modifications, or at the very least, take a look at some of the information that's available to you and then decide how you want to move forward. Now I want to show you something kind of cool, but I have to be a bit of an impersonator to make it work. In this case, I'm going to work as the administrator, but I'm going to impersonate Vivian. I have to be careful here. My wife's name is Vivian, coincidentally. So Vivian's going to select 3 files. With these 3 files selected, at the top, she's going to check out the documents. The checkout button changes to a check-in if she wanted to check the files back in. In the very top right, I have a small icon of a face or a head. I'm going to click that, and I'm going to exit the impersonation. I'm going to click Revert to Self. I'm now going to show you how filters work and a really cool tip. I'm poking around in the system and I realize I want to find something. An icon in the top left provides a drop-down, and I can manipulate what's displayed inside my assets. Right now I'm seeing the content only, but I'm going to click on Filter. This opens up a world of possibility. You can see across the top, the location is the assets, and within it, a specific path to the Learning XML documentation for AEM. I also have an expanded set of filters on the left that I can work with. Just one small part of the filter allows me to look at the status, which includes things like publish and publish date and last published by. Scrolling down, I can also see the checkout. I can then choose files that are checked out or checked in. I happen to know Vivian has a vacation coming up. She's going to be taking some time and traveling with friends. Now, if you've been paying attention to the rest of the screen, it's filtered and showing me search results that only identify files that have been checked out by Vivian, and I've saved this. This is the part that makes filtering really cool. There's something called Smart Collections. So here I am sitting at the computer, I've got my repository view, and I realize I need to figure out all of the files that Vivian has checked out. In the left pane, I'm going to click on Favorites. Remember, I saved Vivian's checked out files. So in Favorites, I can now expand that to see what's contained inside of it. Quick, if you've got a pen and paper, write down all of those. I'm kidding, don't write down any of them. I'm going to show you this in a moment. I just want you to notice there's a bunch of files. We're going to come back to this in a few minutes, and I'm going to show you a before and after. That was the list then. Vivian is actually going to go in and do a little more work before she leaves for her holiday. So I'm going to go in and impersonate Vivian and show you what she might be doing. It turns out 4 files that she recently worked with are going to get selected and checked in. This time on the top toolbar, she'll click the check-in icon. Remember, this is what I had. I went in, and in the assets in a specific location, I used the filters. Once I had filtered, I took the filter and I saved it with the name Checked Out by Vivian. The result of that was that when I looked at Vivian's checked out files, I saw all of these documents, including the ones that are highlighted at the bottom. This means that you can work in the assets, build a collection of specific filters based on a wide range of criteria, and very quickly and dynamically find exactly what you're looking for. There's one more thing I want to show you, and I don't want to show you all of this, and you'll see why. There's an entire session on this, plus we're already at about 29-30 minutes, and I want to leave a bit of room for questions and answers outside of the recorded video. That being said, I'm not letting Chad steal all of the thunder on this and show all kinds of awesome stuff. I'll at least give you a taste. When you have a map, there's a tab for output, and it has some incredibly powerful capabilities. This output allows you to create a PDF file, but it's not like any of the PDF files that you've built from a map before. This map generates a PDF without the use of FrameMaker Publishing Server, the Open Toolkit, or any other approach that you might have taken inside AEM in the past. This uses a native integrated publishing tool. I can go in and, using the visual environment, create custom PDF. I can change the PDF layout through a drop-down to specify things like the page display. If your PDF document needs to be secure, you can go to Security, set the password, and type it directly in while you're still working inside AEM. I'll just show you 2 pages of the most generic PDF you'll ever see. Plain font, no header, no footer, the PDF file just opened up. It also opened up in the single page view. So single page view, no password. But now check this out. I'm going to go in general and give it a new PDF file name. So I just type in the new name. I'm also implementing a quick change in the layout. Instead of the single page view, I'm going to use the 2-page view. Having changed these settings in FrameMaker, FrameMaker Publish Server, and the DITA Open Toolkit, it's incredible. I click a drop-down, I make a choice. I'll set a password to open the document, and just click and type in my password. For the purpose of this demo, I'm actually setting the password to password so that I can officially, for once, actually get away with it. Then I click Generate Preset, and I'm going to download and open the PDF with password and with the 2-page view. That's nice. The moment I try to open it, the demo of the new PDF publishing is protected, and I have to enter in that super top secret password of password. The document displays in the 2-page layout. Still really generic looking, but it did exactly what I told it to in a couple of clicks. You can also see the size difference between the first page with map output and preset workflow, which is a subheading, the appearance of the 1, 2, 3, the graphics, and on the second page, that continuation of procedural steps, restarting with 1, 2, 3, continuing with 4 and 5. I'm going to do a tweak to the page layout so that I can get some headers and footers as well. I'm going to use fields, and the project title is going to pick up the map title and place it into the header. Again, totally driven by a visual interface. There it is. No toolkit work, no compiling of information, no FrameMaker work and rebuilding an STS file and loading it onto a publish server. This is integrated directly into the editor. Watch how quick it is to update the footer. It currently reads page 1. I'm going to click next to that. In the interest of time, I didn't show you every single piece of this, but this is under 30 seconds of work. I've set it up to read page 1 of 1. The last entry is a variable that's going to be the total page count. So if it's a 10-page document, I'll get page 1 of 10, page 2 of 10, page 3 of 10, and so on. By the way, if you've used RoboHelp, this might look a little familiar. All I'm doing here is I'm going into my CSS through a visual interface, and I'm changing the default body font for all of my content. I'm going to use this font style called Fantasy. I'm sure nothing can possibly go wrong with that. That was it. Couple of minutes of work, and what you have is a header and a footer and a complete font change throughout the entire document. I think it's 3 sessions to go, and you'll have a lot more information on PDF branding and customization. There's a session titled Ditch the Developer. I may take that a little personally, but Chad Dibdall is going to be presenting that. In the meantime, you can contact us by emailing info@publishingsmarter.com, or you can find me on LinkedIn. You can also visit our YouTube page. I have a couple more links that I think are going to be really helpful to you. We are at about, give or take, 34 minutes at this point. So if you need to jump forward in the video when you watch it again, and you need to get to the helpful pages, there's roughly your timestamp. We have a lot of other videos on working with FrameMaker, working with AEM, working with structured content. If you go to our YouTube channel that's seen here, you can quickly find several tips and tricks that would help you get started or do a bit of a deeper dive. And it's all free. We've even already grouped together some videos to make it easier for you to get into the flow of learning more about Experience Manager. The Adobe Experience League pages contain tutorials for working with DITA. The link will be coming up in just a moment, but it contains information on topics I didn't even have time to get to, such as working with conditions or reusable content, working with keys, snippets, deeper dive into maps and book maps, all kinds of information, so do take advantage of this free resource. There's even a collection of really good PDF documentation that is well worth downloading. At a minimum, I would suggest that you go in and look at the user guide and work your way through it in order to learn as much as you can about how to best use the editor. Today I talked about several different things, including my LinkedIn profile, the YouTube channel that we have, many of the resources that are available from Adobe, including both the Experience League and their PDF materials. All of that information is here, consolidated into one set of links. To conclude then, my contact information, the QR code that you can scan with your phone. I want to pass on a quick thank you to our hosts. Stefan, you've been fantastic to work with over the years. I really appreciate your help. The entire development, marketing, and sales team on the Adobe side, and of course, to everybody who has attended the session today and taken time to participate. I truly appreciate your support, and I would love to talk to you in more detail about how we can help you with your AEM and DITA implementation. Take care.